Good morning, I'm Marc-André Cossette, and welcome to CPAC's special live coverage from Ottawa. Today, Canada celebrates a historic moment in its democratic life as Louise Arbour is formally installed as the country's 31st Governor-General. The former Supreme Court Justice, War Crimes Prosecutor, and UN Human Rights Commissioner will succeed Mary Simon, who has been serving in that role for the past 5 years. You're now looking at live pictures just outside the Senate of Canada. That's where dignitaries and guests are gathering for today's ceremony. Some of those guests have already arrived. You're seeing now live pictures of Prime Minister Mark Carney making his arrival along with his spouse, Diana Fox-Carney, one of many dignitaries expected today. As I mentioned, some have already arrived, including former Governor-General Adrienne Clarkson. We also saw former Prime Minister Joe Clark, and Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak, the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Just some of the many dignitaries expected. Others still expected include current Governor-General Mary Simon, former Governor-General David Johnston, former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, among many others. All of them coming together for a moment that really marks the beginning of a new chapter for one of Canada's oldest continuing traditions and institutions. And let's just take a minute to listen to some of that sound that we're hearing outside the Senate of Canada.
Yes, good to see you again.
Hey, good morning.
Mr. Franchi, good to see you. I'm very well.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Happy day.
Great. Good morning.
Beautiful day, positive day. It's a momentous occasion. It is. Our outgoing Governor-General did an amazing job. Our new one will do just as well.
Oh, I'm sure. We're very optimistic and looking forward to it.
He's a good person.
Yeah.
I think about the weather. We should have these.
We have
We had such a poor season thus far. We should just have more ceremonial events. And then we would have
Give
better
us weather like this.
I guess if it's working.
So that was Prime Minister Mark Carney arriving on the red carpet, and some of the members of that receiving party you can see there in the center of your screen. That's Greg Peters, the usher of the Black Rod, and Mr. Carney was meeting there with the Pierre Moreau, the government representative in the Senate, as well as local chiefs of the chief of the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, that's Greg Sarrazin, and local chief Verna Polson, Grand Chief of the Algonquin Anishinaabeg Nation. You're also seeing now the Chief Justice arrive with his spouse, that's Richard Wagner, just as I mentioned, one of several dignitaries that will be making their way to Ottawa for this historic ceremony. Let's take a listen.
Good morning. Grand Chief Verna Polson for the Algonquin United Nations Tribal Council.
That's good.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Grand Chief Verna Polson from the Anishinaabe Nation.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Well, then I had to come.
Garde d'honneur! Salut général! Présentez! Out!
So far you've seen with us the arrival of Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner. We are next expecting the arrival of the outgoing Governor-General, Mary Simon, and her spouse, and that will be followed by the arrival of Governor-General designate Louise Arbour. And as I mentioned, that the institution of the Office of the Governor-General is getting a new occupant at Rideau Hall that arrives with one of the most distinguished public service careers in the country. So in the coming hours, we will of course bring you the ceremony itself. We'll explain the traditions and the symbolism behind what you're seeing. And we'll hear from some of Ms. Arbour's former colleagues. All of that so we can better understand what her appointment could mean today for Canada at a time of, we know, significant challenges, both domestically and abroad, and challenges, change, and uncertainty. First, let's go check in with CPAC's Andrew Thompson. He is standing just outside the Senate building. Andrew, as I was mentioning, this really is a historic day for the country. A lot of pomp and circumstance steeped in tradition. Walk us through some of the key moments that we can expect as the ceremony unfolds.
Right, Marc-André. Well, we are expecting a lot to unfold over the next hour or so. You're going to see 21 gun salutes. We're going to see presentations to the new Governor-General, presentations of the Callers of Office for her role overseeing awards like the Order of Canada. There's going to be a presentation of the new Great Seal of Canada for King Charles. There's going to be lots of artistic performances as well. But in terms of the actual constitutional crux of what's happening this morning, there are a couple of key moments to look before, once that ceremony gets underway inside the Senate of Canada building, there's going to be a reading of the new Governor General's commission. This is a constitutional requirement. It has to be done in the presence of cabinet members and in the presence of Chief Justice Richard Wagner, who we just saw. There are also 3 oaths for the new Governor General to take. One is the oath of allegiance, one is the oath of the office of Governor General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, and the third is the oath of the Keeper of the Great Seal of Canada. So you're going to hear those oaths read, and then when those oaths are signed, it actually becomes official. Louise Arbour is the new Governor General of Canada. But certainly, Marc-André, what we are watching for is the actual speeches from Louise Arbour and Mark Carney that will follow.
That's right, Andrew. A speech in which she'll have the chance to lay out possibly what she hopes to accomplish with her time as Governor General. We're now just seeing live pictures of the outgoing Governor General, Mary Simon, and her spouse, Whit Fraser, making their arrival on the red carpet. Up next, I should say she has been serving in that role now for 5 years, that 5-year mandate starting in 2021. Canada's first Indigenous national, or rather Governor General, so certainly historic, if only for that reason alone. And she's now taking her spot on the red carpet alongside Prime Minister Mark Carney as we await the arrival of the incoming Governor General, Louise Arbour. I do want to pick up on Prime Minister Carney while we see him in the picture there. He did choose Louise Arbour for this role, Andrew. How did he explain that decision? Why did he feel she was best suited to take on this position at this time?
Well, if we go back to that announcement last month, Mark Carney said the Governor General is the guardian of our constitutional order, that it's a duty that calls for, in his words, sound judgment, deep learning, and an unwavering commitment to the rule of law. And Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Louise Arbour's entire life has been dedicated to that very principle. He said that Louise Arbour's work in various fields has carried the conviction that institutions are, in his words, the load-bearing walls of a civil society, and that every role she's had has been based on this idea that a free society depends on its institutions being held to account. So that's some of the thematic justification we heard from Mark Carney for appointing Louise Arbour to this role. And we did hear from Louise Arbour herself at that event just over a month ago. She talked at her unveiling about the importance of stable institutions and the fact that Canada is shaped above all else by a common respect for strong public institutions and the rule of law. And, you know, Marc-André mentioned we are watching for that speech, and we are watching especially to hear from Louise Arbour what her key priorities will be for the role, because every Governor General has specific mandates that they want to accomplish during their 5 years at Rideau Hall. So we'll be listening especially in a little while to hear from the new Governor General on what she wants to bring.
That's right, Andrew. And speaking of the new Governor General, I do see another car pulling up right now to the red carpet, and in theory that should be Ms. Arbour herself arriving for her installation ceremony. As we mentioned, the 31st Governor General, one in a long line, and one who will want to put her own stamp on that office, one that continues to be relevant to Canadians today, and one that, as you mentioned, Prime Minister Carney explained, pointing to the importance of institutions. So there she is, Louise Arbour, stepping out of her car right by the red carpet, being greeted by applause. Let's take a listen. So this is live pictures of Governor General Designate Louise Arbour arriving at the Senate of Canada for her installation ceremony. There will be a territorial welcome. She's now being accompanied by, among others, local chiefs, as I mentioned, there's Elder Verna McGregor of Kitigan-Zibi, as well as Grand Chief Lisa Robinson of Wolf Lake First Nation. And there will be a drumming performance by the Eagle River Singers. That should be up next in our program. We will be going back to Andrew throughout the ceremony over the next couple of hours, but in the meantime, to help us better understand both the history and the significance of today's events, I'm joined by someone who will be with me throughout this special coverage. Barbara Messamore is the president of the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada. She's also a professor of history at the University of the Fraser Valley and an expert on the role of the Governor General. Barbara, thanks very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be with you.
So obviously, as I was mentioning, a historic moment for Canada, but Canadians in general might not think all that much necessarily about the Governor General in their day-to-day lives, their busy day-to-day lives. Why would you say the Governor General is an institution that still matters today? What do Canadians need to know about its significance and its importance?
Well, Andrew quoted Mark Carney describing the Governor General as the guardian of our constitutional order. And I think that's a really important way to think of it. We see the conspicuous kind of ceremonial aspects of the role, the visiting and traveling to different communities and whatnot. And yet I think what's important to remember is that that role ensures the continuity of legitimate government. It ensures that we have a government in place that has the support of the elected House of Commons, our own representatives. So that really is a core part of it, that we have in our Constitution a separation of the head of government, the Prime Minister, and the head of state, which of course is the King, represented in Canada by the Governor General.
And it was only in 1931, actually, following the Statute of Westminster, that the Canadian government was made responsible to make recommendations to the sovereign as to who should become Governor General. It's only in 1952 that the position was first held by a Canadian, Vincent Massey. It's a role that is constantly evolving. How would you say the role has evolved more recently than that?
Yeah, well, even in these earlier evolutions, I think there's a tendency for the written elements to lag well behind what actually happens in practice. So, even before 1931, there was consultation about who ought to be appointed. Not a hard and fast rule, but generally consultation. And, of course, the 1952 appointment of a Canadian is very significant. But I think it's important to get that right from the outset, from Confederation, in fact, even pre-Confederation, there was no chain of command, that Britain's government was not in a constitutional sense guiding the actions of the Governor General. And so they don't perform, although they represent the Crown. They're not acting on with the direct instructions and advice of the King on a day-to-day basis. And so, the roles evolved beyond that, as you say, like in more recent years. And we've become, I think, a lot more conscious of the important and ongoing role of the Governor General as an important part of the relationship between Indigenous people and newcomers. So, we see that certainly in the ceremony today, but this goes way back, right? So even the 1763 Royal Proclamation that in law represents what we now call recognition of Aboriginal title. That's a proclamation in the name of the Crown, not a piece of legislation, right?
Right. We'll just take a quick pause, Barbara, just to take a listen to what local Chief Greg Sarrazin, he's the chief of the Algonquins of Pikwik-Noggin. So let's just take a listen to what he has to say as we await that drumming circle performance. Let's take a listen. So that was a drumming performance by the drum circle by the Eagle River Singers. That's a traditional drum group that consists of Algonquin men from the communities of Kitigan, Zibi, and Barrier Lake near Ottawa. A ceremony, or rather a performance, that acknowledges that the ceremony today is taking place on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabeg Algonquin Nation. I was also speaking with Barbara Messamore. So Barbara, we'll come back to you. We were talking about how the role of the Governor General is one that's evolved over time, that continues to evolve. Do you think Canadians' expectations of the Governor General are different today than they were even maybe a generation ago? What do Canadians expect to see from the King's representative in Canada?
Well, I guess I would say it's a hard role to get right, and so, it's a very difficult role. And in some sense, my sympathies tend to be with the incumbent, because I think that you face criticism all the time. If you're too conspicuous, if you're traveling too much, people scrutinize spending, as of course is reasonable. But if you don't do that, then people will question, what have you done in the role, this kind of thing. So it can be very difficult to hit the right balance. And of course, it's important to note that when the Governors General travel and things like that, they do that at the instance of the government. They are often fulfilling a role that they've been asked to fulfill. The intangibles are really a big part of that office, that people of good judgment and people who recognize the importance of the office, who can carry on the dignity of the role of the Crown. It's something that each person will put his or her own stamp on it, and have their own priorities. But I would say that you're right in what you said initially, that Canadians maybe don't think of the role that often day to day. Often if the Governor General's in the news, it's not a good thing. So, that's one of the difficulties, that good news stories aren't, don't generate as much attention. I know certainly when Michaëlle Jean was Governor General, she was very photogenic. She was frequently splashed on the front pages of the newspaper and whatnot. But it's not always a great thing to be a news item when you're Governor General. No, certainly not. We were just seeing pictures there earlier of the Governor General designate being greeted by dignitaries in the Senate hallway there. There was Raymond Gagné, the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, Francis Scarpaleggia, as well as national Indigenous leaders, Cindy Woodhouse-Nippanak, the National Chief of the AFN, Natan Obed, the President of the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, and Victoria Pruden, the President of the National the Métis National Council. There will be a little lull before the ceremony kicks off in the Senate chamber, the formal installation ceremony. Speaking of the ceremony, there's obviously so much, as I mentioned, tradition. Today is a day that's really steeped in tradition, so much symbolism. Why does a ceremony like that still matter to Canada? Why does it still matter in today's Canada? And actually, just before I get you to answer that question, we'll just take a quick listen to what's happening here with outgoing Governor General Mary Simon. Let's take a listen.
Queen Elizabeth II to the representative of the Registrar General of Canada to be decommissioned, after which custodianship of the seal will be transferred to the Librarian and Archivist of Canada for preservation as a matter of public record.
Je confie maintenant à votre garde le grand sceau du Canada pour sa mise au service. I now entrust you with the Great Seal of Canada of Queen Elizabeth II for decommissioning.
Would the Governor General now be pleased to entrust the new Great Seal of Canada, approved by His Majesty King Charles III, to the representative of the Registrar General of Canada? Son Excellence la Gouverneure Générale consent-elle à présent à confier le nouveau Grand Sceau du Canada, approuvé par Sa Majesté le Roi Charles III, au représentant du Registraire Général du Canada?
Let's say it in English.
I did.
Je vous confie le garde du Grand Sceau du Canada. I entrust you with the safekeeping of the Great Seal of Canada.
So that is outgoing Governor General Mary Simon. She is decommissioning the Great Seal of Canada of Queen Elizabeth II, and she is commissioning the Great Seal of Canada, the new Great Seal of Canada of King Charles III. This is actually her last official gesture as Governor General, and that new seal, the new Great Seal of Canada of King Charles III, will be presented to Ms. Arbour. I think we do have an image of that new seal that we can bring up. So that is the new seal. And I should note that traditionally, the Great Seal of Canada has been in existence since Confederation, and until now it had changed with each successive reign. The seal that you were just seeing was designed in 2025, featuring the Canadian Royal Crown, and that image is set to now remain unchanged whenever a new sovereign is in place. What will change will be just the text on the seal border. It will just feature the name and title of the current sovereign in English and French. And here is Mary Simon now signing that decommissioning and the commissioning of the new seal. And when she does that, as I mentioned, that will be her last gesture as Governor General, thereby ending her time as Governor General. So, Barbara, I think the question I had put to you earlier, obviously, I was saying, we're seeing it now. These traditions, that have been taking place for centuries now. Why do ceremonies like this still matter in today's Canada? What does it convey about the Crown and Canada's history, really?
Yeah, they do matter, and I think today's an important day. It's nice for Canadians to be reminded about certain aspects of our system of governance. It's really about continuity, right? That we have a system that's been in place where the basics have not changed in a very, very long time, and it's not a perfect system where that's not the yardstick we measure it against, but Canada's a pretty great country, and people come here from all over the world to live in this system. So I think these reminders of what we have can be very important. And I do think, for example, last year, the Prime Minister inviting King Charles to give the speech at the opening of Parliament, I think that was an important reminder that we are still a monarchy, and the system may be hard for people to grasp, in a sense that we have a head of state that doesn't live in the country, that the function of the Crown is represented by somebody else here. So it's a system that may be kind of puzzling to outsiders, and even, in fact, to many Canadians, and yet I don't think that we enhance our national identity by getting rid of those historic aspects of our system of governance. There's reasons we have in place the system where we have a head of state and head of government. I think about polls, for example, where people ask, should Canada get rid of the monarchy, and typically splits about 50-50. I wonder what would happen if we asked people, should we have a president instead of a king, right? And you might get a very different answer, in the current climate, but we do need kind of a separation of those two functions.
Well, certainly in a very short amount of time, Canada will have a new Governor General, Louise Arbour. She is undertaking now a new chapter, adding to a career that's already been quite remarkable and impressive, a career that has seen her reach the highest court in the land here in Canada, and that's also allowed her to make history on the international scene. We do have a quick little highlight reel of that illustrious career. It is in French, so let's take a listen, and here is more about Canada's incoming Governor General, Louise Arbour.
No credible, lasting peace can be built upon impunity and injustice.
Louise Arbour a consacré.
Louise Arbour has dedicated her career to human rights and justice. Originally from Montreal, she studied law at the University of Montreal and then at the University of Ottawa before she started her legal career in Ontario at the start of the 1970s. In 1996, she took on an international role when she was appointed Chief Prosecutor prosecutor for the ex-Yugoslavia and Rwanda criminal court. She indicted Slobodan Milosevic for crimes against humanity.
Confirmation against Slobodan Milosevic and 4 others, charging them with crimes against humanity.
Puis, en 1999,
in 1999, she was appointed to the Supreme Court of Canada, where she sat for 5 years. It's very interesting work, but in a context which is so austere. The Supreme Court is very tough work. She took up a new international role as High Commissioner for the UN for Human Rights. 58 years after the proclamation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we're in a new era. Throughout her career, she fought for the respect of human rights and women's rights. She contributed to have sexual violence recognized as a crime against humanity in Canada. She directed or presided or chaired a specific commission. In 2002, she recommended a whole range of reforms for the Canadian forces. So, culture, masculine and hypersexualized culture that prevails in the armed forces has been exposed, and that's the product of this environment. She's appointed Governor General. She describes her appointment as an honour. I accept this responsibility with a sense of duty.
So those are just some highlights of Governor General designate Louise Arbour, really remarkable career both here in Canada and on the global stage. And Barbara, I wonder, as Governor General designate Arbour prepares to take on this new role, obviously we've heard what the Prime Minister has to think about what she's accomplished so far in her life and what that means for what she brings to this office. I wonder what stands out to you most about her background and what it means possibly for her tenure as the next representative of King Charles III in Canada.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things. I think that her strong record on protecting and promoting human rights speaks very well to the role, because I think that strong institutions that can't be easily overturned are really an essential thing to protecting human rights. I think that her work of inquiry into sexual abuse in the armed forces is all to the good, because she will
Barbara,
be acting as...
Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we are just now getting live images from inside the Senate. So we'll end it there for now. We'll come back to you later in the ceremony, but let's take a listen to the installation of Louise Arbour as Canada's 31st Governor General.
Avant de commencer, veuillez noter que la prise de photo est interdite.
Before we begin, please note that photos are not permitted and cell phones must be turned off during the ceremony. Simultaneous interpretation is available via earpieces installed on all benches or attached to the backs of the seats in the galleries.
Constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy, the authority of the Crown, embodied by His Majesty King Charles III, is represented in Canada by the Governor General at the federal level and in the provinces by the Lieutenant Governors who are here with us today.
Le gouverneur général contribue à
The Governor General helps bring Canadians closer to their country's history, while helping to shape Canada's present character and shape its future. She plays an important and impartial role in the continuity of our parliamentary democracy and in the preservation of Canada's constitutional monarchy. She also helps promote the fundamental values that Canadians hold dear and celebrates with us all that is best in Canadian society.
Governor General promotes excellence by presenting national honors, decorations, and awards that recognize the efforts of Canadians who have contributed to our country's greatness. They connect with Canadians throughout the country, making their way to every part of Canada to support our youth and a variety of humanitarian, artistic, athletic, and service organizations. In so doing, they celebrate our country's diversity and excellence. The Governor General is also the Commander-in-Chief of Canada, taking on the essential task of recognizing the important role that the Canadian Armed Forces play in Canada and abroad. The installation ceremony of a new Governor General confers a tone of solemnity on the beginning of their mandate.
La cérémonie d'aujourd'hui.
Today's ceremony offers us an opportunity to celebrate as we welcome Canada's 31st Governor-General. The Honourable Louise Arbour is one of our country's most distinguished legal scholars, with a long and illustrious career in both the judiciary and academia. After a period of teaching law, she served on the Ontario Superior Court of Justice as well as the Supreme Court of Canada.
National stage, the Honourable Louise Arbour held the important position of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, led the International Crisis Group, and acted as the Special Representative for the UN Secretary-General for International Migration. She brings to her new role a lifetime of service in the pursuit of justice and understanding the realities of a world in constant evolution. In a moment, Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, 30th Governor-General of Canada, and Mr. Whit Fraser will make their entrance, accompanied by the Right Honourable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, and Mrs. Diana Fox Carney. The Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada. The Honourable Raymond Gagné, Speaker of the Senate. The Honourable Francis Scarpaleggia, Speaker of the House of Commons. The Honourable Pierre Moreau, Government Representative in the Senate. And the Honourable Mark Miller, Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. The procession will be led by Mr. Greg Peters, the Usher of the Black Rod. The procession will be accompanied by a selection of musical pieces performed by a contingent of the Canadian Armed Forces Central Band. I invite you to rise if you are able for the procession. Je vous invite à vous lever.
I invite you to stand if you are able for the procession.
Veuillez vous asseoir, please.
Please be seated.
Dans un moment,
In a moment, the Governor-General designate, the Honourable Louise Arbour, will make her entrance into the Senate chamber. She will be accompanied by General Jenny Carignan, Chief of the Defence Staff, Mr. Brian Larkin, Senior Deputy Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and Mr. Ken McKillop, Secretary to the Governor-General. The procession will be led by Mr. Greg Peters, the Usher of the Black Rod. The procession will take place to the accompaniment of music performed by the Canadian Armed Forces Central Band. I invite you to rise if you are able for the procession.
Rise if you're able for the procession.
Veuillez-vous s'asseoir. Please be seated.
Please be seated.
Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, who have been present on these lands since time immemorial.
Forte d'une formation.
With a background in banking and in real estate, Elder McGregor has contributed to numerous organizations promoting Indigenous economic development and the fight against domestic violence. Elder McGregor promotes the Algonquin language and culture as president of the Algonquin Cultural Institute and as a member of a group of traditional grandmothers and elders.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Hello everyone.
Be here today, and I'd like to honor our honored guests and the future Governor, Her Excellencies, and the past Excellencies. As Algonquin, we're known as the Omamaninwak, the nomads, and we would meet here in the summer because this area here is so special that we're known for the birch bark canoe. Why we would meet here is that this confluence of the rivers coming together. And it's similar to, if you've been in a lot of our communities, the medicine wheel, where there's many teachings to that, but the biggest meaning is that it represents balance, even individually, your emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental. But it's a reminder too that what connects all of us is that we're connected to the earth, the waters, the fire, and the air. And what I did today, too, as well, is our ancestors were one of the first to meet the newcomers, most notably Samuel de Champlain. And this led to a conflict in the past called the Beaver Wars, which led to this great peace gathering in 1701. And from there, they created one of the symbols, which we see as covenants, which is this sharing belt of 1701. And it represents the three nations, really, which you had the British Crown, the Anishinaabe in the middle, and the French Crown. So again, it was our understanding is the sharing of the lands and the caretaking of the lands for future generations too. But they're also called peace belts in terms of how do you weave together different ideologies so we coexist together without destroying each other. And that's the significance of these, and that's why I'm very honored to be here today. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say a little prayer. Part of our protocol too is the offering of tobacco, and again, that was one of our sacred medicines in the medicine wheel. And I may ask you to stand if you can. S'il vous plaît.
Please rise if you can.
I also have my eagle feather, and again, too, the significance of the eagle feather is that it has a higher view, such as leadership. You need a higher view. Niganich, kakina. So miigwech. Onje ni gashkitocha ma dose konshe non gomo me kakina pamad sejectin is well konshe. Mom de gay, we nigan with chekena bigis. We doka kakina chmino pamad watch chimnayag. Juana kiwa jena bigis. Miigwech onje kakina gagish and don onje mom de gay in the kimanon. Shkaki question kason in the kimanon. We doka kakina pamad sejek onje anagadwabdan. Kakina gujna in the kimanon. Mom de gay nishna beaki. Miigwech onje kakina etek Kishagon Keys, the big keys is a Shejanung Shuk. We do Koyan and Okamis Nano Jen Agdwabdan, Kakina Guj Nibi, a Shechin Mishomson, Nano Jen Agdwabdan, Kakina Gujya, Ishkude, Miguachon na Sewin, Kagimi Shen, Chimino Zion. We do Kakina Chipino Pamadzawaj, Mom de Gegi opposite Jik. We do quag mom de gay, Ninjino in Daganuk, Nimashomson, on the Gokmas non, a Shitchin Dubano Gishuk, Mom de gay, Nabashka Dagamak, Kamashed, Denisawak, Schwinmish, non in Abigis. We do quag Kakina Wessi, Suck, Gishan Dan Kakina Guch, a Shitch, we do quag Kakina, Mom de gay, we wisna, Jik Demagas Jik, Akas a Jik, Kaye, we me God with Jik, non gom, Chiwana Kiwaj, in Abigis, Conscious Quat Niguede Simene, Mia, Miguach, 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 Miguach. Miigwetches, thank you in Algonquin. Say merci en Algonquin. J'ai dit ça.
It's thank you in Algonquin. I said it 4 times.
To honor the place we're here today, because I find it interesting that Parliament and the leadership, the Senate, is at that confluence of the 4 rivers coming together from the 4 directions, representing that it's a big responsibility to bring in balance for the collective. So, miigwech everybody, merci à tous, and have a wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
And congratulations to the future Governor General. Miigwech. Oh, Namadabin, you may be seated. Asseyez-vous.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Elder McGregor, for your wise words. I would now like to take a moment to explain a tradition that was carried out before the ceremony began, the lighting of the kudlik, the traditional Inuit lamp. Made of soapstone, the kudlik burns animal fat and uses Arctic plants as a wick. These lamps are traditionally used in the north to bring light and warmth to homes. Elder Ripa Ivik Carlton is here with us today to tend the kudlik for the duration of the ceremony. She has dedicated decades of her life to supporting community social work in Nunavut, as well as founding a healing center here in Ottawa, which provides a variety of Inuit community support programs. Elder Ivik Carlton, thank you for joining us today.
L'auteur-interprète.
Quebec singer-songwriter Sarah Dufour, accompanied on guitar by Paul Théoret, will now perform La Reine, or the Queen, by Les Cowboys Fringants, with music and lyrics by Jean-François Posé. The song tells the story of a woman who devotes her life to serving others despite her own challenges, and highlights the themes of solidarity, resilience, and empathy. Please welcome Sarah Dufour.
Jamais su de quel pays qu'elle venait, ni même l'âge qu'elle avait ou comment qu'elle s'appelait. Mais tout le monde la surnommait la reine, dans le bout de la rue Sainte-Catherine et de la Maine. Elle se promenait dans le quartier depuis au moins 10 ans, côtoyant les putains et les itinérants. Mais quand on entendait son accent, on se doutait qu'elle venait pas du lac Saint-Jean. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. La nuit avec son pick-up, elle faisait sa tournée, distribuant des toasts et un peu de café pour donner un petit brin de chaleur à ceux qui ont l'hiver drette dans le cœur. seule présence était comme un baume sur leur plaie. Son regard était une lanterne pour les naufragés des sombres tavernes. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. Selon ce que dit Polo, un chauffeur de taxi, elle aurait fui la guerre pour émigrer ici. Il y a de cela une couple de décennies, quand ils ont tué son petit gars puis son mari. Et ce qu'elle aurait trouvé pour s'accrocher à vie, c'est de s'occuper des pauvres et des plus démunis. Au lieu de vivre triste éternellement, elle avait maintenant des centaines d'enfants. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. Ça s'est passé hier dans la nuit du 12 au 13. En sortant de son pick-up, a eu comme un malaise près de chez elle, au métro du collège. On l'a retrouvé mort dans un banc de neige. On n'aura jamais su de quel pays qu'elle venait, ni même l'âge qu'elle avait ou comment qu'elle s'appelait. Mais ce matin, les gens pleuraient la reine dans le bout de la rue Sainte-Catherine et de la Maine. Mais au moins, elle a repris ses ailes pour partir vers un monde un peu moins cruel. Et même si elle croyait pas en Dieu, c'est sûr qu'elle vole quelque part où le ciel est bleu. Et même si elle croyait pas en Dieu, c'est sûr qu'elle vole quelque part où le ciel est bleu. Merci.
The position of Governor General has greatly evolved since the Confederation of Canada in 1867. King George VI in 1947 signed letters patent which redefines the powers of the Governor General. Since that time, the Governor General has duly performed the duties of head of state not only in Canada but also abroad. These letters patent also conferred upon the Governor General the role of Commander-in-Chief of Canada. The letters patent require that the commission of this office be read publicly during the swearing-in of a new Governor General.
J'aimerais maintenant inviter le secrétaire.
I would now like to invite the Secretary to the Governor General, Mr. Ken McKillop, to read the commission signed by His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada. Charles III, by the grace of God, King of Canada and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth, to our trusty and well-beloved Louise Arbour. Greetings. We do, by this our present commission, under our Great Seal of Canada, appoint you, Louise Arbour, to be, during our pleasure, our Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada with all the powers, rights, privileges, and advantages belonging or appertaining to the office. And we do hereby authorize, empower, and command you, as our representative, to exercise and perform all and singular the powers and directions contained in certain letters patent under our Great Seal of Canada, bearing date the 8th day of September in the year of our Lord 1947, constituting the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada, or in any other letters patent, adding to, amending, or substituted for the same. And by these, as soon as you have taken the prescribed oaths and have entered upon the duties of your office, this, our present commission, shall come into effect. And we do hereby command all and singular our officers, ministers, and loving subjects in Canada, and all others whom these presents may concern, to take due notice hereof, and to give their ready obedience accordingly. given under our royal hand and under our Great Seal of Canada, the 2nd day of June in the year of our Lord 2026, and in the 4th year of our reign.
Grace of God, King of Canada and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth, to our trusty and well-beloved Louise Arbour. Greetings. We do by this our present commission under our Great Seal of Canada appoint you, Louise Arbour, to be, during our pleasure, our Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief, and over Canada with all the powers, rights, privileges, and advantages belonging and appertaining to the office. And we do hereby authorize, empower, and command you, as our representative, to exercise and perform all, singular, the powers and directions contained in certain letters patent under our Great Seal of Canada, bearing the date 8th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1947, constituting the office of the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada, or in any other letters patent, adding to, amending, or substituting for the same. And further, we do hereby appoint that so soon as you shall have taken the prescribed oaths and have entered upon the duties of your office, this our present commission shall come into effect. And we do hereby command all and singular our officers, ministers, and loving subjects of Canada, and all others whom these patents may concern, to take due notice hereof, and to give their ready obedience accordingly. Given under our royal hand and under the Great Seal of Canada, this 2nd day of June in the year of our Lord 2026, and in the 4th year of our reign.
The commission just read is the cornerstone of today's ceremony. This document, commissioning the Honorable Louise Arbour, signals the King's confidence and our collective pride in her appointment to the office of Governor-General and her ability to carry out this solemn duty. The Right Honorable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada, will now administer the required oaths.
La prestation des serments.
The taking of the oaths must take place in the presence of the members of the King's Privy Council of Canada. Mr. Michael Sabia, Clerk of the Privy Council, will now present the text of the oaths to the Chief Justice of Canada.
Vous, Louise Arbour.
Do you, Louise Arbour, solemnly affirm that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors? I do.
Arbour, solemnly affirm that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors.
I do.
Affirmez-vous solennellement que vous servez.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, and duly and impartially administer justice therein? Yes, I do.
Solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, and duly and impartially administer justice therein.
I do.
Affirmez-vous solennellement que...
Do you solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Keeper of the Great Seal of Canada? I do.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Keeper of the Great Seal of Canada?
I do.
La gouverneure générale désignée ainsi que le
The Governor-General designate, with the Chief Justice, the Prime Minister, and the Clerk of the Privy Council, will now proceed to sign the oath registry.
kept in the Privy Council Oath Registry as evidence that the new Governor General has duly taken the oath of allegiance and the oath of office on this day of June 8th, 2026. Honored guests, Canadians across the country, it is my honor to present the Governor General of Canada, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour. Son Excellence, la très honorable Louise.
Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour. Please rise.
Veuillez vous lever, please rise. Veuillez vous s'asseoir. Please be
seated.
In honor of today's occasion, Parliamentary Poet Laureate Chimwemwe Undi, a poet, lawyer, and editor from Winnipeg, Manitoba, wrote the poem Reasons, a piece that reflects on notions of identity, empathy, and human connection. Ms. Undi will recite her piece in English and is joined by Kobe Jean from École élémentaire publique Louise Arbour in Ottawa, who will read the French translation Raison. Please give a warm welcome to our poets.
Reasons. When it reaches for a country The mind instead summons an illustration, perhaps a width of sky. This thinking an effort to transpose the abstract into a certainty to love. Modern transposition demands a sense of the world as a handshake deal, in which each hand took to the feel of the other hand's palm. Giving takes an understanding of the world as little more than that choice, to hold on, to raise a reconstructed past under light, and see each edge as an invitation. This way, easier to teach than travel, calls us to speak, to echo the silenced, to listen first, to understand, certain only that our good fortune is luck, not reward, a debt discharged with brief, erratic tender, life spent making this place mean something we are proud to signify.
Raison. Quand il aspire à un pays, l'esprit invoque plutôt une image, peut-être une portion de ciel se travaille, un effort destiné à convertir l'abstrait en garantie d'amour. La transposition moderne exige un accord convenu par une poignée de main où une paume s'est familiarisée avec l'autre. Pour donner, il faut comprendre le monde comme guère plus de ce choix de tenir, mettre un passé reconstruit sous la lumière et voir dans chaque suture une invitation. Plus facile à enseigner qu'à répondre, cette idée nous pousse à parler pour se réduire au silence, à écouter pour comprendre certains seulement que notre sort tient du hasard et non du mérite. Une dette acquittée par une monnaie brève et inégale. Une vie passée à donner à ce lieu un sens que nous sommes fiers de porter.
Merci, Chimwemwe Kobe.
Thank you, Chimwemwe Kobe.
The Governor General presents national honors and awards that recognize those people who have demonstrated excellence, courage, or exceptional dedication to service in ways that bring special credit to this country. The majority of Canadian honors are administered by the Chancellery of Honors, which is part of the Office of the Secretary of the Governor General. A newly installed Governor General becomes Chancellor of the Order of Canada, the Order of Military Merit, the Order of Merit of the Police Forces, and head of the Canadian Heraldic Authority.
J'invite maintenant le brigadier général retraité Marc.
I now invite retired Brigadier General Marc Thériault, Undersecretary of Honors, and Mr. Sami Khalid, Herald of Arms of Canada, to present to the Governor General the Colours of Office associated with the National Orders and the Canadian Heraldic Authority.
Le collier de chancelier.
The Chancellor's Collar of the Order of Canada. I am honored to receive this collar. The Chancellor's Collar of the Order of Military Merit.
Le collier de chancelière.
The Chancellor's Collar of the Order of Merit of the Police Forces.
Et finalement,
and finally, the Chief Scholar of the Canadian Heraldic Authority.
I'm honored to accept these collars. Je suis très honorée d'accepter ces.
I am very honored to accept these collars.
The Great Seal of Canada is a symbol used on the most important state documents representing authority and authenticity. Used on proclamations and commissions, it provides the formal sanction of the Crown to these documents.
Le Grand Sceau du Canada existe depuis la Confédération.
The Great Seal has existed since the Confederation. Historically, it has been replaced each time a new monarch has ascended to the throne. The current Great Seal was designed by the Canadian Heraldic Authority following the accession of King Charles III. This seal features the image of the Canadian Royal Crown, a symbol of royal authority in Canada. Marking a new tradition for Canada, this image will remain unchanged from now on and will be used by all of our future monarchs. The text around the seal will identify the sovereign's name and title in English and in French. I now invite the Honourable David McGuinty, acting on behalf of the Honourable Mélanie Joly, Registrar General of Canada, to present to the Governor-General the new Great Seal of Canada. Minister McGuinty is accompanied by Deputy Registrar Philip Jennings.
Je vous confie la garde du Grand
I entrust you with the Great Seal of Canada for safekeeping.
Seal of Canada. Thank you.
British Columbia multi-platinum artist Tyler Shaw will now perform Like Me and You, written by Rafi Kavukian and Debbie Joan Pike. This song playfully highlights themes of connection, empathy, and the universal bonds that tie us all together. Please welcome Tyler Shaw.
Lives in Australia.
special son or daughter, a lot like me and you, a lot like me and you.
Distingués invités.
Distinguished guests, it is now a pleasure to invite the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Marc Carney, to take the floor.
Son Excellence, le très honorable.
Your Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour, Your Excellency Mary Simon, Mr. Whit Fraser, the Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada, former Governors General, former Prime Ministers, Indigenous leaders, and distinguished guests.
Verna McGregor just reminded us, this place holds history. As part of the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples through time immemorial. As the start of the Rideau Canal, which transformed commerce during the 19th century. As the place where Canadian soldiers embarked for the battlefields of World War I, including Vimy Ridge, where many felt that Canada first became an independent nation. As the train station, where Sir Winston Churchill arrived to rally Allied support when the outcome of the Second World War hung in the balance. As the building where Canada's first ministers gathered for negotiations that led to the repatriation of our Constitution, the establishment of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the enshrinement of Indigenous rights within it. Des chapitres importants.
Important chapters of Canada's history were written here. Moments marked by sacrifice and leadership. Moments that helped build our nation. Today, as the seat of the Senate of Canada, this building is the place where the decisions that will shape the next chapters of our country's history are debated, refined, and carefully considered.
Canada's history, whenever the world's fortunes were threatened, Canadians have chosen to step up and assert ourselves as a sovereign, ambitious, and compassionate nation. We are once again living through one of those hinge moments of history, which is why a year ago, His Majesty King Charles came here to open Parliament, which is why respect for our institutions is vital, which is why we are each called to share each other's perspectives and work for our common good. Le comté d'aujourd'hui.
Starting today, His Majesty will have a new representative in Canada. Canadians, for their part, will have a new Commander-in-Chief and a new Guardian of the Constitutional Order. Today, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour becomes Canada's 31st Governor-General.
La couronne.
The crown is the thread that runs through our constitutional life. As His Majesty himself stated in this chamber, it proudly symbolizes Canada today in all of its richness and dynamism.
Is the guardian of our constitutional order, a symbol of unity, and above all, a steward of our commitment to peace, order, and good government. Canadians entrust the Governor-General to defend our institutions, to uphold our core values of liberty, fairness, solidarity, and sustainability, to represent our ambition to build a stronger, fairer country for all. These duties call for sound judgment, deep learning, and an unwavering commitment to the rule of law, the very principles on which our new Governor-General, Her Excellency Louise Arbour, has built her exceptional career. Son Excellence occupe.
Her Excellency has held the highest office within the Canadian judicial system, including serving at the Supreme Court of Canada. Yet her legacy is not limited to the work that she has accomplished within the judiciary. Some of her most significant achievements as a jurist took place outside of Canada's courtrooms. As High Commissioner, she urged the United Nations human rights system to prove itself worthy of the people it claimed to serve. She gave a voice to those whose dignity was being trampled, where those in power preferred silence.
Every stage of her distinguished career, Her Excellency Louise Arbour has defended and promoted justice, dignity, and equality. In The Hague, where her work held the most powerful to account. At the United Nations, when she defended the most vulnerable. In Canada, where across academia, in our highest courts, and in public service, she upheld justice for all. Depuis plus de 50 ans,
for more than 50 years, in every role she has held, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour has always been driven by the same conviction. The conviction that, for a society to be free, its institutions must be held accountable. That it is the laws that serve as a bulwark between the most powerful and the most vulnerable. That the dignity of every human being must not depend on random factors such as geographic location, citizenship, or considerations of convenience. And the conviction that Canada's role in this world is to put these principles into practice and to help other countries do the same.
the Governor-General is the steward of the values we cherish, of the democracy that we celebrate, of the Constitution that protects our freedoms and the institutions that promote them. In fulfilling these tasks, Her Excellency will represent the best of Canada to Canadians and to the world. A Canada that is a bastion of justice, security, and prosperity for all. A Canada that is a beacon to a world at sea. A Canada that is clear-eyed about the challenges that we face and steadfast in the values we uphold. A Canada that is not just strong, but good. A Canada that is not just prosperous, but fair. Votre Excellence, au nom.
Your Excellency, on behalf of the Government of Canada and all Canadians, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to take on this new role for the good of Canada. And now, I am pleased to welcome Canada's 31st Governor-General, the Right Honorable Louise Arbour.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I now invite Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour, Governor General of Canada, to deliver her address.
J'invite maintenant Son Excellence.
I now invite Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour, Governor General of Canada, to deliver her address.
Monsieur le Premier Ministre,
Prime Minister, Honourable Justices of the Supreme Court,
Ministers and members of the House of Commons, distingués chefs,
distinguished Indigenous chiefs and elders,
je suis profondément
I am deeply honored to stand before you here today. These halls were built on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, a proud people who have cared for these lands and have enriched them with their culture for millennia.
gathered here today in the Senate chambers, where careful scrutiny is applied to the laws that will shape our future. Comme la Cour suprême du Canada.
Like the Supreme Court of Canada and the House of Commons, the Senate contributes to the dialogue through which Canadian democracy is expressed.
To thank Prime Minister Carney and His Majesty King Charles III for entrusting me with the opportunity to serve another great Canadian institution in this new role over the coming years. I also wish to thank the Right Honourable Mary Simon for her remarkable service. Her Excellency stood with Canadians through defining moments, from the COVID-19 pandemic to periods of economic strain and profound shifts in the global landscape. Her tenure as Canada's first Indigenous Governor-General will be viewed by history as both significant and timely. I admire the hand that Her Excellency has extended to all Canadians. She has reminded us that reconciliation is a lifelong journey that begins with listening and with empathy. Listening to voices that challenge our understanding of history. Listening to Indigenous environmental and spiritual knowledge, deeply sophisticated, yet long overlooked. Listening to languages unfamiliar to many of us, that have resonated from coast to coast to coast for centuries. And embracing a future in which First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples are no longer cast aside. J'ai pour ma part appris l'importance.
For my part, I have learned the importance of understanding differing points of view, both through my education and throughout my professional life. In fact, I have experienced both the comfort and the discomfort of homogeneity. I grew up in Montreal in a comfortably homogeneous environment. I grew up in uniform, educated exclusively by women. My mother and the Sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame. Until the age of 20, I was surrounded by classmates who were all Francophone, white, Catholic girls like me. I then worked in another largely homogeneous environment, one that was predominantly Anglophone and male-dominated. And despite the promise I had made to myself at age 20 to never again wear a uniform, I donned my judge's robe without the slightest inkling of the surprises life has in store for us. I then had the incredible opportunity to work abroad. I discovered the richness of the connections to be made with people with whom we thought we had nothing in common. My work, both as a judge and in service to the international community, exposed me to a wide range of perspectives. The same is true of the privilege I had of living abroad and working in countries that are vastly different from Canada. I have seen regions ravaged by war and poverty, where people, like all of us, yearn to live with dignity, in peace, and in security. I have always been struck by the fact that everything is a matter of perspective.
Standing outside the United Nations headquarters in New York in the 1990s, confronted with my own biases, I came across a group of Chinese tourists, and I asked a young woman about her impressions of New York. She replied, "It's so old." I was surprised, and then I realized that I had been projecting a story onto her, imagining her as coming from a civilization of centuries-old splendor and gazing at a vibrant city in a younger country. In reality, she was more likely born in futuristic Shenzhen or Shanghai, glittering metropolises of glass towers. So there I was, looking at...
The House of Commons has resumed sitting, which means we'll need to say goodbye to those of you watching on television. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Here is the House of Commons.
I look at Canada through the eyes of someone who has known it both up close and from afar, always with admiration. A country that is not afraid to reinvent itself. Our future is our shared project, a project that calls on us to balance the many perspectives that shape our collective identity. We do not all share the same understanding of our history, nor do we all share the same origins. We, or our ancestors, come from all over the world. Peoples have always traveled. I am thinking in particular of Inuit families who have always traversed the vast expanse of the Arctic. Humanity has always sought to go further, to push the boundaries, and to go higher, as our Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen did on his mission into space. How can anyone be anything other than awestruck by the thought that he set his eyes on places no other human being had ever seen before? So I say this with confidence. Let us not slow our momentum toward progress out of fear of differences.
Extreme polarization is dangerous, but so is extreme consensus. It is through our differences and our fundamental right to express them that we will nourish critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. It is through our differences that we will build a common future. As Canadians, we have the extraordinary privilege of living in a mature democracy. We benefit from strong institutions that allow different views to be expressed. We must continue to protect the public space in which our national debates take place, from schools and universities to the media, to political parties, unions, and civil society organizations, from from theaters, concert halls, and museums, to courtrooms and the floors of our legislative assemblies. The peaceful management of our differences is nowhere better expressed than in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter guarantees that our cherished individual rights are subject only to the reasonable limits that are necessary for life in a free and peaceful democracy. This is what it means to live under the rule of law. In an open society like ours, the purpose of law is not to restrain, but to construct a greater freedom for all. We have a constitutional and cultural framework that allows us to imagine, to explore, to innovate, and to experiment. Our humor is grounded in self-deprecation. We believe in leading as a team. We do not mistake humility for weakness, nor do we measure a person's worth by the thickness of their wallet. We don't think we are perfect, but we believe we're pretty well on the way there. We have a remarkable capacity to pause, to examine our failures, and to learn from them. And when we do, we seek to understand, not just to blame. And we know that we're not yet doing enough. Not enough for each other, let alone for the billions around the world who look at us with justifiable envy. Our country covers nearly 7% of the world's landmass and holds 20% of its fresh water, and yet we make up just half of 1% of its population. We have the talents and the resources that the world will need most in the decades ahead. And young Canadians are citizens of the world. They're well educated with both deep climate awareness and remarkable digital literacy. And yet, not all of them are able to reach their full potential as they face the headwinds of inequality. In that, we are failing them, and it is our shared responsibility to correct course. The better we advance our common project to build a great future for Canada, the greater our influence on the world will be. And for that, our ambition must be bold and sustained. Pour propulser le Canada.
To help Canada reach its full potential, we must adopt a new perspective, one that is ambitious and confident on ourselves and our place in the world of tomorrow. Some of you may have heard the parable of the 3 stonemasons. A traveler comes across 3 stonemasons at work and asks, "What are you doing?" The first replies, "I'm cutting stones." The second says, "I'm building a wall." The third replies, "I'm building a cathedral." I know that it can be difficult to feel as though you're part of the ambitious project of building the Canada of tomorrow. We can all get caught up by the busyness of our day-to-day lives, meeting the demands of our children, of our colleagues, and grappling with the cost of living. But the fact remains that each and every one of us, in our own way, is helping to shape what Canada will become.
And so too is our influence on the world. Our expertise already positions us among global leaders in many fields, from ethical artificial intelligence to clean technologies, from creative industries to medical research. The new technologies at our disposal are more powerful than ever. They're highly attractive and widely accessible. But we must ensure that their convenience doesn't lead us to overlook the profound societal shifts that they are driving. With instant access to vast amounts of information, it's very tempting to pay little attention to the reliability of sources. The lines between knowledge and belief, between truth and falsehood, between facts and assumptions are increasingly blurred. AI could be threatening not only the way we live and work, but also the control we exercise over our own destiny. And yet these challenges are not insurmountable. If we remain vigilant, we could meet them with public institutions that remain trustworthy, a strong education system at every level, sustained investment in science, research and development, and with a private sector that upholds the standards of integrity that Canadians expect. Je tiens maintenant à m'adresser en particulier.
I would now like to speak to young Canadians in particular. Right now, you are starting to build the world in which your children will grow up. Your first task, however, is to build yourselves. Learn, explore, dream, but also listen, pause, take a step back. Like the generations before you, you have at your disposal tools that didn't exist when your parents were born. So, surprise us. And do not underestimate how lucky you are to grow up here, even if you are rightly concerned about the major challenges of our time. The health of our planet, the inequitable distribution of wealth, and the violence of armed conflicts. But trust in yourselves. Canada offers you tremendous freedom and tremendous possibilities.
The world is watching. It's watching the country that we're building together. Former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan often spoke of the three pillars of the United Nations: security, development, and human rights. And he always stressed that there can be no security without development, no development without security, and neither development or security without the protection of human rights. This is as true in Canada as it is everywhere else. As we undertake major initiatives to strengthen our economy and to strengthen our security, and to grow our economy, including in the Arctic, we must remain attentive to the rights of those directly affected, and we must always ensure a fair sharing of both burdens and benefits. Our collective security rests above anything else on the trust that we place in each other. Of course, I cannot speak of security without recognizing the vital contribution of the Canadian Armed Forces to peace, stability, and security, both around the world and here at home when there are times of great hardship. I recently came across a remark by General Jenny Carignan, Chief of the Defense Staff, who described the forces as long-standing exporters of security. I think today these vital efforts are being complemented by a renewed focus on defending our own vast territory. À nos membres en uniforme,
to our uniformed members, I express my deepest gratitude for your service, professionalism, and commitment to excellence. And I stand firmly with your families who share in the sacrifices that this commitment entails.
To see recruitment efforts bearing fruit with more Canadians from diverse genders, backgrounds, and perspectives choosing to serve. Significant progress is also being made within the forces to foster inclusion with dignity. Building on a proud tradition of respect and honor, this continued modernization will, over time, strengthen effectiveness and morale. It will also enhance your capacity by better reflecting the country that you're called to protect. It's a profound honor for me to assume the role of Commander-in-Chief of Canada. À l'aube de mes nouvelles fonctions,
As I take on my new role, I am mindful of the privilege given to me to go out and meet with Canadians across this country and to discover the wealth of ideas and ideals that inspire them. I am preparing myself to be surprised and to confront my own stereotypes and unconscious biases. Like that day when a young Chinese woman made me smile when she remarked that everything in New York was old. I can't wait to learn and share with you my thoughts on the joy of discovering others. And when I am called upon to represent Canada beyond our borders, or to welcome foreign dignitaries here at home, it is this wealth of Canadian voices that I intend to showcase. In particular, and I hope that each day I will be able to embody the spirit of empathy that lies at the heart of our great reconciliation project.
We can harness our extraordinary resources, the breadth of our talent, our collective know-how, and our boundless imagination. The world is watching us, not to copy everything we do, but to draw inspiration from a country striving to embrace the future with greater security, prosperity, and dignity for all. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you.
Merci, Excellence.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
For the singing of our national anthem, I am pleased to invite the 2024 recipient of the Governor General's Performing Arts Award for Lifetime Artistic Achievement in Classical Music, soprano Misha Bruger Gosman Lee. Veuillez-vous lever pour l'interprétation du O Canada?
Please stand for the singing of O Canada.
Singing of O Canada.
Honored guests, distingués invités.
Honored guests, our ceremony is coming to a close. In a few moments, Her Excellency, and the official procession will leave the Senate chamber. Meanwhile, Alicia Bloor will perform a Métis violin song. She will perform a suite from the Red River Jig, a famous traditional Métis dance accompanied by the violin, often performed during celebrations. Distinguished guests.
We thank you for joining us today. We kindly ask that you remain seated until the Governor General has departed for the National War Memorial. At that time, we will invite you to exit the Senate chamber where the Senate pages will guide you. We wish you a pleasant day.
Nous vous remercions de votre présence. Nous vous demandons.
Thank you for joining us today. We kindly ask you that you remain seated until the Governor General has departed for the National War Memorial. At that time, we will invite you to exit the Senate chamber. The Senate pages will be able to guide you. Please have a pleasant day.
So with that, Canada has a new 31st Governor General with Louise Arbour sworn in as Vice-Regal. You're seeing now the recessional exit, and a few things will happen now that the formal program has concluded in the Senate chamber. As I mentioned, that recessional exit being led by the Usher of the Black Rod, followed by the aide-de-camp, the Governor General, the Prime Minister and his spouse, the Secretary of the Governor General, as well as the Speakers of the Senate and the House of Commons, and the Minister of Canadian Heritage. The Governor General will now be escorted to the Speaker of the Senate's chambers, where she will sign a few documents, including the proclamation marking her ascension as Governor General, as well as the Government of Canada's Golden Book and the guest books of the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Commons. Interesting to note that the desk on which she will sign those documents is one of the very few items that survived the Parliament Hill fire of 1916. So a fun trivia fact whenever you're next playing your game of trivia. From there, she will then make her way to the National War Memorial, where she might have the opportunity to exchange with Canadians along her way there. That procession again being led by the Usher of the Black Rod, and she will depart on foot with her two grandsons, Henry Spratt and Max Spratt, along with Prime Minister Mark Carney. She will inspect the guard, and there will be then laying of the flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier. That will be followed by the last post, and then at that point there will be two CF-18 fighter jets that will fly over Parliament Hill as part of a flypast. And at that point, Governor General Arbour will then make her way to Rideau Hall, where she will again formally take office as Governor General and begin her official duties. So let's go back now to inside the Senate building, where we have CPAC's Andrew Thompson standing by. Andrew, we've now heard from Governor General Arbour for the first time as Vice-Regal. Obviously, we were mentioning ahead of this speech that it is an opportunity for her to set out her vision as to what she hopes to accomplish in her time as Governor General. What stood out to you from her remarks? What did you hear?
Well, a few things come up in that speech, Marc-André. The new Governor General talking about her life, her education, and her professional life, and that a big part of it has been learning to understand different points of view, saying that she's always been struck by the fact that everything is a matter of perspective. And she was talking about how now that she'll be going out, meeting with Canadians, that she's prepared to be surprised and to confront her own stereotypes and biases. She says that we must balance many perspectives of our collective identity. She said when it comes to polarization, that extreme polarization is dangerous, but so is extreme consensus. And it's through our differences that we're going to build a common future. So perhaps a nod to that question of national unity that you were talking about earlier in our broadcast. She also talked a lot about debate and the exchange of ideas in the public square, saying that we must continue to protect public spaces in which debate takes place, everything from schools, media, and courtrooms to theaters, museums, and of course our legislatures. She also talked about the rule of law, the importance of the Charter of Rights. Of course, Louise Arbour, a former Supreme Court justice, and she said it is our shared responsibility when it comes to young Canadians to correct course when it comes to inequality. So this could be a theme that we see come up throughout her term, ensuring that young Canadians reach their full potential. Near the end of the speech, we heard Louise Arbour talk about our country being our shared work, and she also had some interesting comments about new technology and artificial intelligence, saying AI could threaten control of our lives, but we can lead with strong public institutions and a strong education system.
We also heard from Prime Minister Mark Carney ahead of the Governor General's own remarks, a speech that, as we become accustomed to now from the Prime Minister, focusing very much on the country's history, significant moments in this country's story. He's again said that he believes we're living through what he called a hinge moment, and saying, underlining the need for Canadians to respect institutions and hold them up. What else jumped out? What message do you think he was trying to send through his own comments? Again, not comments that are completely new from the Prime Minister, but an opportunity to repeat that message.
Right, and we heard again the Prime Minister say that the Governor General is the guardian of our constitutional order, that it's a symbol of unity. Of note, again, on that question of national unity, that's what we heard from the Prime Minister. We heard Mark Carney say that Canadians entrust the Governor General to represent our ambition to build a stronger, fairer country for all, that the Governor General is the steward of values we cherish, and that in Louise Arbour's case, throughout her long career, that she has defended and promoted justice, dignity, and equality. And we heard Mark Carney also say that the Governor General will represent a Canada that is a bastion of justice, security, and prosperity for all. So again, perhaps, Marc-André, another nod to this national unity question that confronts Louise Arbour as she takes over this new role.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Andrew. And just going back to some of the live pictures that we're seeing from the Senate chamber, those were Governor General Arbour's two grandchildren, Henri Spratt and Max Spratt. They will be making their way to the National Memorial along with National War Memorial, along with Ms. Arbour and the Prime Minister. As we await that walk to the National War Memorial, let's bring in again Barbara Messamore. She's the president of the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada. Et pour nous accompagner en français.
And also we have a French guest from Poitiers in French, Kevin Guillaume, who's a specialist in the English monarchy. Hello, good morning. Hello. Kevin, let's start with you first of all. Canadians now have a new Governor General. She'll have the opportunity to speak to people when she gets to the National War Memorial. To what extent is it important for a Governor General to be present and visible in the public space? Well, she represents Canadian unity, if you like. She has to be visible. She has to be close in contact with the Canadian population, to be popular and to have the recognition of the Canadian people, especially for her institution. It's very important for her and for the institution that she leads to be in contact with Canadians. She can't just remain behind closed doors. She has to get out and meet people. Go ahead. Charles III is very close to his population as well. He's always present. He's always in contact with them, in touch, and the Governor-General has to do the same thing in Canada. Ms. Arbour is probably one of the most well-known Canadian figures, internationally speaking. What do you think she can bring to her duties, to the role of Governor-General? Well, I think it will promote the function, the duty. It's not very well known abroad. Here in France, people know the Prime Minister, but they don't know that there's a Governor-General. And I think the fact that she's such a high-profile figure will give us a renewed focus on her duties, on her role, but it'll allow us to see the political and diplomatic role she plays as well. She's there to represent the institution. She's there to lead the army. She signs legislation into law. She's there to represent the institution, but she's not there to govern. The person who governs is a Prime Minister. So I think this will give her a higher profile to this mainly honorific role. As I said to Andrew earlier, we heard the Prime Minister of Canada explain his decision to appoint Ms. Arbour. He spoke to high points in Canadian history. He says that we're currently going through a pivotal time. International institutions are under attack across the world. What message do you think he's trying to send to Canadians or to the rest of the world through the appointment of Ms. Arbour? Well, look, Ms. Arbour she's a very well-known Canadian. She's a specialist and expert in justice. Now, this new role is very significant, especially in a world where we have war across the world, in Iran and Ukraine. Now, she's a person who is focused on justice, and I think that sends a positive message, a message of hope and of peace to the rest of the world. It allows Canada to live peacefully and to remove itself from these wars. I think that's why their Prime Minister chose Ms. Arbour and not someone else, and why Charles III approved his choice in a very positive manner. In fact, he was enchanted, delighted to approve her appointment.
One of the Governor-General's key responsibilities is bringing Canadians together, and Kevin just now was talking about, you know, what this choice signals on the world stage, or what it could signal on the global stage in terms of providing some hope and some, you know, greater cohesion. Ms. Arbour is taking office at a time when questions about national unity are once again very much in the spotlight. Obviously, there's separatist sentiment in Alberta. There's the possibility of a sovereignist government being elected in Quebec in the upcoming provincial elections this fall. How do you expect, and how difficult will it be for her to navigate those challenges? And what role should she be playing, if any, to try to help foster that kind of national cohesion when it's very much playing out in partisan politics right now?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It is a pivotal moment in a lot of ways, and I suppose she does help to present a very positive vision of Canada and what Canada stands for, Canadian values, and all the things that we get right, as imperfect as we may be. And of course, she's a person of real substance. You know, she's a remarkable appointee. I think her speech hit all the expected notes, but in a very dignified and meaningful way. I think that she talked about the importance of reconciliation, the importance of the service of Canada's armed forces, the importance of well, as Andrew drew attention to earlier, being open to the perspective of others.
Right. Sorry, Barbara, I'm just going to jump in very quickly because we're just getting more live pictures of Governor General Arbour. She is signing those documents that I mentioned. So there was the proclamation, the Golden Book, and then it looks like we're just signing the guest books of both the Speaker of the House and Senate. Let's listen in.
Excusez.
And it looks like they're just setting up for a family photo there. Sorry to cut you off there. So we were talking about the challenges of, with concerns about national unity playing out now, and what that means for the Governor General as she takes office.
Yes, and of course the Prime Minister mentioned Canada's hinge moment, and of course the subtext of that is that we see what's happening south of the border, and that gives us a model to think about that maybe helps us reflect a little bit on what we have and what we value. I think that, in Louise Arbour, we've probably never had an appointee who would have such deep grounding in the constitutional importance of the role. And it's worth mentioning, I suppose, in that vein, that 100 years ago this month, we had the famous King Byng crisis in 1926, where a Governor General was compelled to refuse the advice of his Prime Minister. And, that was an important constitutional moment and kind of a reminder of what the political scientist Frank McKinnon called the constitutional fire extinguisher role of the Governor General. That sometimes in a crisis we need somebody to ensure that the government that's in place has the support of the elected House of Commons. And it bears mentioning that on the provincial level, as recently as 2017 here in British Columbia, we had a lieutenant governor who was compelled to refuse the advice of her premier to dissolve Parliament for fresh elections just a few weeks after the last election. So that rule is by no means extinct. These things don't come up very often, but it is wonderful to have somebody who, as a justice of the Supreme Court, really gets it, really understands the essential function of the Crown.
Right, because we so often think about the ceremonial function of the Governor General, and then because there are relatively few of these, I guess you could say, strongly, weighty constitutional moments, they do happen, and when they do, we're very much reminded of the importance of the Governor General. The office is meant to be above the fray of partisan politics. Why is that so important?
Yeah, I think Adrienne Clarkson famously said that the Governor General was above politics, and people kind of jumped all over that as being arrogant or something. But she was absolutely right, that it is above the partisan fray, and that you have a kind of a neutral umpire to ensure that things are played out properly in Parliament, that nobody attempts to circumvent that essential test of confidence for an administration. So it is important, and as you say, these things don't always come up very often, and so we can imagine that some of these functions have become obsolete, but that's not in fact the case. And I think one of the other things that bears mentioning is given her public service record, I think Louise Arbour will be someone who will really get the importance of listening to those who have deep institutional memory in the office. The staff at Rideau Hall, they're excellent public servants who help guide them in all sorts of communication and in ceremonial events and whatnot. And it's all very well to kind of bring in fresh perspectives and whatnot, but you do have to respect the knowledge of people who have that continuity in their roles.
And I think it also goes without saying that while they remain above the fray of partisan politics, or they attempt to do so anyway, governors general aren't also immune from some controversies that can pop up from time to time. You mentioned some of them earlier. And I do wonder, after the controversy that surrounded her predecessor, Mary Simon's limited abilities in French, Ms. Simon had, said that she made the effort to learn French. She's pointed to the fact that she was not able to learn French growing up, but it was a lightning rod for criticism, namely in Quebec. So how significant do you think it is that Ms. Arbour is perfectly bilingual in both English and in French?
Yeah, well, we have a tradition where I was going to say we alternate French and English appointees, but in fact you might better say it's French and non-French appointees, because of course appointees have now represented different ethnicities, not strictly British background. I suppose what I said at the time of Mary Simon's appointment is that if we're serious about having an Indigenous appointee in office, then we do have to recognize that fluency in another language, an Indigenous language, is a legitimate qualification for office. I think she made attempts to work on French and never, of course, perfected it. It's difficult at an advanced age, as I know well. but I think, it's an issue. But I think we've had to kind of negotiate it with a bit of flexibility, and I think that as an Indigenous appointee, she brought something else that recognizes part of Canada's founding traditions, right?
Great. Okay, thanks for that, Barbara. We're now seeing live pictures of Governor General Arbour as she makes her way to the National War Memorial. As you can see, she's accompanied by her two grandsons, Henri Spratt and Max Spratt, along with Prime Minister Mark Carney and Diana Fox-Carney. I was mentioning part of the program that will take place at the National War Memorial. There'll be a guard of honor. Then they will lay some flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and that will then proceed to a fly past of two CF-18s. Let's go back to Andrew Thompson, who is standing still outside the Senate building. Andrew, I was just chatting with Barbara about the controversy that Governor General Mary Simon had faced. She had faced a lot of criticisms over her limited abilities in French. As I mentioned, she had said that some of those criticisms were unfair, pointing out that she did not have the opportunity to learn French when she was growing up. She was bilingual, as Barbara pointed out, in English and in Inuktitut. Ms. Arbour is fluently bilingual in French and English. How significant do you think that is, given the debate we saw over French language proficiency?
Well, the Prime Minister himself said it was significant. Back in April, the Prime Minister told an interviewer that the next Governor General would absolutely be bilingual. And as you say, this story really stayed throughout Mary Simon's tenure. There was a polling from when she was first appointed 5 years ago showing about 70% support for her appointment nationwide, but only 40% of Quebec Francophones supported her in the role. We had former Quebec Premier François Legault say that her grasp of French was not ideal. There was even a court challenge to her appointment, and there were well over 1,000 complaints to the Commissioner of Official Languages. And the Commissioner did eventually say that the Governor General is not subject to the Official Languages Act, and that having an Indigenous Governor General is a significant step towards reconciliation. However, that Commissioner also said that appointing non-bilingual people to key leadership positions sends forth a strong and negative message. So as you say, this language issue really took up a lot of attention over the past 5 years with Mary Simon.
Okay, thanks for that, Andrew. Appreciate it. Let's go back now to Kevin Guillot in Poitiers in France. Kevin, je le mentionnais tout à l'heure.
Kevin, I was saying earlier there was a lot of controversy around Ms. Simon as Governor General because she wasn't bilingual in French and English. She said she'd never had the opportunity to learn French when she was a child. She did strive to learn it during her term in office, but it didn't go across very well in Quebec. Do you think it's important, do you think it's significant that Ms. Arbour is bilingual in both official languages? Oh, I think it's very, very important because the popularity of the Canadian monarchy is dropping. Generally speaking, Anglophone Canadians are in favour of the Canadian monarchy, but Francophones are not, especially those in Quebec who would prefer a republic. So she'll be able to speak to them directly in their own language. French is one of the official languages in Canada. That's important. We shouldn't forget that. So the Governor-General should be able to speak both languages. That goes without saying. And Miss Simon wasn't able to speak French. And I think that was a stain on her term as Governor-General. She did take French training during her term, which did allow her to learn a bit of French, but she never succeeded in being able to speak French fluently, and I think that was really something that undermined Ms. Simon's term. So it's very important for Canadians to be that their Governor-General is able to speak French. Kevin Guillaume, thanks very much.
Just outside the Senate building, where Canada's 28th Governor-General, David Johnston, has been kind enough to make time for us. Mr. Johnston served as Vice Regal from 2010 to 2017. Mr. Johnston, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, a pleasure to be with you. This is a great day for Canada.
Having gone through this yourself, I wonder what emotions you imagine Ms. Arbour is feeling right now.
Well, I hope she feels a great sense of confidence and very positive about today. Really a remarkable speech by the Prime Minister about Canada and its great promise, and then a remarkable speech by her with really a wonderful vision about Canada, what it is and what we want to be. And you know, when you think of the challenges in our world today, particularly the fragility of our democratic institutions and our order of the rule of law, which has prevailed internationally since the Second World War until just a decade or so. And there's the 21-gun salute.
I'm sure you're well familiar with it.
Celebration. That's what you call a punctuation mark, yes. But when you think of those, yes, gunfire, that's something we want to silence. When you think of the challenges in the world today with respect to the challenges to democratic institutions, I cannot think of a person who is better prepared to help us build and strengthen those institutions and to once again restore the rule of law. And remember, laws are not to constrain, but to establish the foundation for freedom. And our new Governor-General's professional life has been devoted to enhancing the system of justice and improving and strengthening those rule of law institutions, both
I think I just heard those fly over my building, so I'm sure they're a little louder where you are, sir.
When I hear those guns and those airplanes and I look at the Parliament building, I think this is all about peace, order, and good government.
Right.
I guess we need a little punctuation. In any event, just thrilled at the appointment of
can I ask you?
Madame Arbour, who is...
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Well, I'm just really so delighted to see her taking on these responsibilities. And the role of the Governor-General, of course, is to reinforce our Constitution and our values. And she will be, I think, a great leader in that respect. And her speech was also with the theme of hope and pride, and each of us having a stewardship to make this country even better for those who come after us. Now, I think the guns have had the last word.
We'll see. She will have the opportunity to travel all across the country. I wonder, as did you, I wonder what did you learn about Canada through your time as Governor-General, not only through those travels, but just by virtue of being Governor-General?
What I learned is that I came into the job feeling very proud about my country, and it's a blessed country. I I don't think my wife and I fully appreciated just how good it was. And perhaps the thing we enjoyed most was visiting different communities and seeing so many people just working hard to make their community better for others. We used to do a little preparation before each of the visits we'd make to a particular community, and that was to look at the rate of volunteerism in that particular community. And if it was above average, by and large, that particular community was healthy, volunteer looking after others. And if it was below that average, chances are it was not quite as healthy as was. And that whole notion of volunteerism, of helping a neighbor, of the golden rule, is so much part of our life as Canadians. And I think on a day like this, we celebrate this and take pride and say, yes, we have a stewardship responsibility. Let's do it well. And the guns have had their word. Thank you. Take care.
I think you did have the last words, sir. David Johnston, Canada's 28th Governor General. Thanks again very much for your time. I appreciate it.
What a pleasure. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, Marc-André Cossette here with you again as part of our special live coverage of the installation of Canada's 31st Governor General, Louise Arbour. As you can see there, just inspecting the guard gathered at the National War Memorial. Let's go back to Barbara Messamore, if I may. This obviously, I was mentioning one of the many titles or responsibilities, rather, that Ms. Arbour will play now that she's Governor General is as Commander-in-Chief of the Canadian Armed Forces. And she certainly does bring to this role, much more familiarity, I think we can say, than with that institution than many of her predecessors, in part due to the role she played in authoring that report on sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. How do you think that will serve her during her time as Governor General?
Yeah, as you say, she does bring a great deal of familiarity, and I think that most people would recognize that her efforts to improve conditions in Canada's armed forces are a very good thing, and I think people recognize that that's positive. She wasn't, opposed to the military. She was working to make it better. I should say, just in passing, I think it's wonderful that you had the opportunity to include David Johnston in your interviews. So what a remarkable Governor General he was in so many ways. People really recognize the value of what he brought. So not to change the subject, but it just bears mentioning. Unfortunately, he had to compete with the guns and the flyover, but wonderful to hear from him.
Yes, I'm glad we had the chance to speak with him as well. I just go back to this opportunity that she has to shape public dialogue, because Ms. Arbour, this is a much more ceremonial role than she's used to taking, right? She's been at the center of very weighty decisions, whether it was at the Supreme Court as a justice on the bench, or as a former war crimes prosecutor for the international tribunals for the former Yugoslavia or for Rwanda. She's not used to necessarily taking more of this role that is confined more to protocol. How do you think she will make that adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, I think as somebody who's really a global figure, she draws on really deep experience. She's adaptable, she's flexible, which is, to me, a remarkable thing at the age of 79. She seems a very young 79 to me. But I think that she's smart enough to take advice from those who will surround her at Rideau Hall. And I think as somebody who has a really positive vision of Canada, I think she can take that on the road. She can visit communities, she can engage with Indigenous Canadians, and I think she's well equal to the job.
Et Kevin Guillot, si je peux vous poser un peu la même question.
And Kevin, I'd like to ask you the same question. This is a real change, a significant change in role for Ms. Arbour, a much more ceremonial role, role that's high in protocol. How do you think she'll adjust and the opportunities that she'll have to work differently to shape the public imagination? Could you comment on that? Well, if you allow, she's a bit like Charles III. Charles III, during his reign, he hasn't stopped taking position on topics, on focusing on the environment, for example. Now that he's king, Well, there are many topics that he's no longer able to deal with or to speak about. For Ms. Arbour, it's the same thing. In the past, she was able to say what she wanted, speak her mind. When she was a civilian, when she was a Supreme Court Justice, for example. Now she has a diplomatic and honorific role. She has to be neutral, politically speaking. She won't be able to deal with all the topics she wants to deal with, and that's a major change for her. For the 79-year-old who's never had that restriction, but she won't have any other choice. She'll have to deal with it. It's part of the job. Earlier, I was talking about this with Barbara. She's become Governor General at a time. There are many questions swirling around national unity, be it the independence movement in Alberta or the possibility of a sovereignist government in Quebec later this fall. How do you think Ms. Arbour will navigate these challenges? What role could she play, or would she like to play, to foster national unity, or at the very least social cohesion? Answer: well, I think she'll bring people together. She wasn't chosen for nothing. She speaks both official languages. That's a major asset for her. It's an asset for her term and for the future of Canada as well. I think that her past in justice and the figure she is in general, she'll be there to create or to foster greater cohesion in Canada, and to allow Canada to continue to exist as it is, and to dampen down independence sentiment. This is a crucial mandate that Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, has given to her. No. Canada's history didn't start today. There's a lot of past, a lot of history. I think Canada can be proud of its past and its future. Thanks, Kevin.
A recital of the last post by a lone bugler on Parliament Hill, so let's take a listen to that solemn tribute. You've just been watching Governor General Louise Arbour lay flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier, along with her two grandsons, Henri Spratt and Max Spratt.
Présentez! Out!
Alors, merci encore. Félicitations, ça fait tellement
And with that, Governor General Louise Arbour, Canada's 31st Vice-Regal, begins a new chapter in her career of public service, one on behalf of all Canadians this time. With that, we are going to conclude our special coverage of today's events. She's now going to be making her way to Rideau Hall to get settled in and begin her duties. My thanks to our reporter Andrew Thompson out at the Senate of Canada building, as well as Barbara Messamore and Kevin Guillot. Thanks so much to all of you, all for your insights throughout all of today's broadcast. Merci d'avoir été avec nous. I'm Marc-André Cossette. On behalf of the whole team here at CPAC, thank you very much for joining us on the historic day. We'll be back with more. Keep watching CPAC. Thanks so much for being with us.